Welcome to the latest episode of FiftyForward Exchange, a video series produced by Nashville nonprofit FiftyForward. The goal of FiftyForward Exchange is to discuss ideas or topics that are important to the older adult community. Today's FiftyForward Exchange offers a glimpse into caregiving with someone who knows all too well about how important care programs are for the older adult, as well as for the family members. I'm Georgina Dench, Adult Day Services Program Manager. We are so happy to have Heather Bogdal join us today. Heather is a dedicated and loving daughter, caregiver, and businesswoman who is eager to share her caregiving journey with us. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay. Heather, tell us about yourself as well as the caregiving role you play in your mother's life.
I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a daughter. I have my husband, 3 children, 2 boys which are still at home, 23 and almost 18, and they're tall boys. And my mother, and 3 dogs, all in the same house.
It's busy.
It's busy. I have a full-time regular office job and then a part-time retail job as well. So our schedule as well is very busy. And so when my mom got diagnosed with dementia in 2016, never expected that I was going to end up being a primary caregiver. Never, if you had asked me, I would have said absolutely not. Never happened.
It's not something you tend to plan for or you think is ever going to happen to you.
I think depending on situations, you may look and say, you know what, we're going to have to plan for this. But I was here in Nashville, my parents were in Maryland, my sister is in Ann Arbor, Michigan, my brother's in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, so we were all spread out. So my dad was the primary caregiver for my mom. Neither of them were in the best of health. There were just a lot of issues. So when they moved to Michigan to be closer to my sister, we thought, this is going to be better. This is going to work. Holly can be close to mom and dad and kind of watch over both of them, see how things are going. And it didn't work as well as we had expected. Even thinking back, I said to mom, can you imagine if dad were living here with us too? And she goes, oh no. Big man, my big son's my big dad, I just can't even imagine. But they came down for Christmas in 2019 and my dad got sick. He went into the hospital, he had a stroke, he went into inpatient rehab and died within a 3-week time period. So I went from trying to help my mom deal with my dad and all of that, and then suddenly, you're the primary caregiver. Here you are. And we didn't even really consider her going back to Michigan. We knew it was not feasible. We didn't even think about her getting her own apartment. We looked at each other and said, she's gotta stay here. She's gotta stay with us. So that was January, February 2020. COVID
Yep, lots coming up.
shuts everything down, and suddenly there's this almost reprieve. Suddenly my 60-hour work week is a 40-hour work week and there's no commute. So mom and I are sitting on the couch and I'm on my laptop and we've got Hallmark playing and the dogs are going in and out of the house and there's just this calm and we're looking at each other and saying, I can do this. I can find a way to make this work. We cook together, we garden together. We found a way to be mom and daughter, but also mom and caregiver at the same time. So without that kind of quiet time, with nobody else telling me what to do except what was going on in the house, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. But then things started opening up. And we had to find another way because she was home. I was going into the office maybe 3 days a week. And so she was home those 3 days all by herself. Not that she would set the house on fire, but she was by herself. She wasn't having social interaction. She was coloring, she was still watching Hallmark, but there just wasn't that interaction that she really needed. She wasn't getting as much exercise. I had to keep checking up on her. And have you had lunch? I'm good. Have you had your water? I'm not thirsty. Yes, you are. Right. So we had looked at 54 Donaldson, but it was not the right fit for her. And when I Googled FiftyForward and looked at some other options, I saw you had adult day services. So I said, Mom, what do you think about trying this? I don't know, that's for old people. 83 years old, that's for old people, she says. So we go in and we do a little tour and talk about the program, and I said, what do you think? And she goes, well, I just don't know. I said, why don't we try it? Let's just see what happens, it'll help me out a little bit. Guilt. It'll help me, Mom. And she went, and within a week, she was talking about the 4 people at her table and how they sat together and everybody had their little place and they got to play bingo and they did this art project and, oh, I think we could do this with Daniel. It would be really fun. And what did you have for lunch today? I don't know. Was it good? I mean, it was amazing. So it just became the right thing. We knew it was the right thing for her.
Great. And it is interesting you say about, that adjustment period and that resistance at first, because we see that so often, and we always tell people, just try for a couple of days. And definitely we have used that strategy of just do this for your wife. Just be here for a few days. It'll really help her out.
Guilt is a wonderful tool.
It can definitely be effective. And then, we do find 9 times out of 10, people try it for a few days, they find their group, they find their community, and they really enjoy it. So that's great to hear. That's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So obviously, Janet joined us because of that cognitive decline, and you didn't feel like it was okay for her to be at home, for all those hours by herself. So how does that cognitive decline impact, the whole family? So you and your kids, your husband.
It's very hard. It was very hard initially to see Mom on a daily basis and not have her be the mom that I knew, the mom that I used to go to, the mom that was the powerhouse woman, that was the art teacher, that was always doing things, going, wanting to do so many things and really not able to. And having to tell her, I know you really want to cook, but you have to do it with me. I know you want to do these things, but you're going to have to do them with adult supervision, as I say. And she just kind of rolls her eyes at me and does one of these. But it was really hard at first. And she's not the same mom that I grew up with, but she's different, and it's okay. And we've learned new ways to interact with each other and new ways to do things. And most of the time, it's okay. There are some days when she's asking the same questions again and again, and it's very hard. And I'm like, what have I done wrong? What did we not do this week? Is she not scheduled? Thinking that there's something that I could change to make it better, and there isn't. It's some of those things just come with the territory. You just do the best with what you have to work with.
Absolutely, and some of those things change on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Something that worked yesterday no longer works today. So absolutely. Why do you believe that day programs like 50Forward are so important for older adults?
As I said, I think it's important for older adults to have a place to go, to have a community, to have a reason to get up in the morning. There's no reason for her to get out of bed at 8 o'clock in the morning when she's going to be spending her day coloring in front of Hallmark movies and me calling her and saying, go get yourself some lunch, playing with the dogs. All of those are great things at home, but she needs that interaction. It gives her interaction, it gives her nutrition, it gives her exercise, it gives her supervision. That gives me a comfort level that I know Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Mom is at ADS, and I know she's taken care of, and I don't have to think twice about it, and I can focus on the things that I have to do my day job and to do my family things.
Great. Well, we are so happy that we get to be that place for you and for Janet. So how do you believe that the social, physical, and emotional interaction benefits Janet?
COVID taught us all that we need those things. We cannot live in a vacuum. You can, but not successfully. You need social interaction. You need to exercise. You need to play. And I feel that older adults have a tendency, especially those that have cognitive decline, to kind of pull back and be quiet and be watchers and not be involved. And that's not, as humans, what we were born to do. You give them those skills. You make sure they're eating, you make sure they're sleeping, you make sure they're hydrating. You give them play, you talk to them, you give them new tasks that they haven't done before, and they thrive. It makes a huge difference.
Great. And you did allude to that peace of mind that it kind of gives you to go about your day. What is it about 50Forward's Adult Day Services that gives you, your family, and your mum that peace of mind?
I know she's taken care of. I know that she's not sitting in a chair somewhere by herself, no one's talking to her. I know that she's being engaged by the staff as well as her friends there. It forces her to pay attention. We talked about her playing bingo. Mm-hmm. She loves to play bingo. She wins at bingo because she pays attention. Very important. She always wins at bingo. But there's just a peace of mind knowing that she's taken care of and that you genuinely care for her. It makes a difference. It lets me be the me before I had to be a caregiver. And it lets mom be Janet before she realized that she has cognitive decline.
Right. You get to exist outside of those caregiving roles.
And outside of that box.
Right.
Outside of the box that they put you in, oh, you have cognitive decline, this is what you are. She's so much more than that. All of your people that are at ADS, there's so much more than that, than the cognitive decline, than being 80, than having gray hair. There's so much more than that, and you give them that.
Thank you. And I have certainly learned a lot about Janet over the past year or so. I mean, you said she's an art teacher,
Mm-hmm.
she's a musical theatre fan
Mm-hmm.
and singer, she's a helper to everyone else, and she's very competitive. We played balloon volleyball yesterday, and she was really going for it, so I think her team took home the win. What advice would you give to others who are looking for a place for their loved one to thrive?
Do your research. Pay attention to what works for you. What works for one family is not going to work for every family. Grant yourself some grace. It's a hard road to walk, and some days it's easier than others. Some days all you want to do is go sit in the car and cry. Some days you come home from your job and you sit in the car for 10 minutes just scrolling through your phone because you don't. I just need 10 minutes. But when you're doing the best for the one that you love, knowing that they did the same for you, you can't go wrong. But use your resources. And when people say, hey, can I help you do this? Take advantage. If someone wants to help you, let them help you. Let them guide you.
Yeah, you don't have to be the expert on everything.
No, and you're not in a desert. You're not the only person that's living it. Share your stories and grant yourself some grace.
Yeah, that's huge, definitely. And I will say, just one of the big things that I have learned in this work is, of course, I love the connection with all of the clients, but learning about caregivers has also just been so eye-opening, and the work that you do all day is inspirational. It really is. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you again. We're so glad you joined us for this episode of 50Forward Exchange. We hope there is an idea or two here that you can put into action. We look forward to seeing you again soon.